clear communication on podcasts, webinars, and calls. So Brent was just on the podcast, and that's what we'll be focusing on this week as well as podcast power. So making sure that our communication is as clear and resonant as it can be, because we are in the communication business, we're in the people business as mastermind leaders, as teachers, as coaches. So I have this quote down here, which is clear communication is like an art. It's not just about what you say, and I'll turn this into the we language for us. Clear communication is like an art. It's not just about what we say, but how we say it and how well it is received. Not so much about what we say, but how we say it and how well it is received. And that's Simon Sinek, author of Start With Why. And I believe this is a phase that all of us go through as mastermind leaders. There's so much energy in the beginning of figuring out what to say. What are the words? What is the ideal client? What is the avatar? And then through that whole mix, it's like we find the handful of keywords that matter, I believe. And then really it becomes, how are we saying it? And making sure that we say each of those items. So the problem being unclear communication. And if you've ever felt like this, where a person's like, you never understand me. And little cat's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So if you've been on both sides of this scenario, if you've been, sharing your message and what you want to say, and then a person says, okay, so what do you mean again? And it's like, well, I just told you, right? So if you ever felt like that, or if you've ever felt on the other side of that, where someone's communicating and they're trying and they're sharing, but it's just not making sense. So this, I feel like, is word salad syndrome, where there's a bunch of words and it's just all tossed together. There's not clarity there. And I know for myself too, sometimes I'm like, damn, that was a little word salad-y. That definitely brought some word salad to the mix. And so that's what I'd like to have in our awareness today is, when are we having word salad syndrome? And also hanging sentences, where it takes the whole sentence to understand what you mean, understand what we mean. So just like that sentence, it's like you don't even really know what I'm talking about until you hear the whole piece at the very end. So a fun thing is, this is actually how comedians write their jokes, where the last word is the punchline. And when it's artfully done, it's like building up the tension in the sentence. Each sentence is adding more to the crescendo, and then boom, it all explodes at the very end with that last punchline word. So that is awesome when we're telling a joke. When we're communicating for somebody to understand, that's like the opposite of what we want, I believe. So a fun example of this is, of course, Master Yoda. Communication, the key is. And I'm using these like really obvious examples. However, the fun thing is just notice when we do this, where we're saying something and you see that look in a person's face, like they're trying to figure it out. And at the very end, boom, they're like, oh, okay. Well, that takes extra time, of course. That's not as efficient as it could be. And it's wasting time, we could also say, which is maybe okay if we don't have a business where we're in the communication business. But in the communication business, it's our number one leverage point, right? For leadership, coaching, team, our own selves. So those are the two things I'd like to have in the mix for today. And so in the subconscious clearing, we'll pay special attention to clearing blocks in the throat chakra. And so usually throat chakra is like a nice light blue. So I'm going to share a few things that I've found technique-wise. And what I invite you to do is just choose one for today that feels relevant. So authentic communication, I'd say that is the statements of I feel, I believe, I recommend, in my experience. Why are those so powerful for authentic communication? I believe they're so powerful because instead of saying, this is the way something is, that is the way something is, they are this, it's like we're making a declarative statement of truth on the world. And I used to do this all the time. I still comes up once in a while, but it all changed when I heard a musician share something with me where he talked about being on stage of thousands and thousands of people and the connection, the authenticity, the connection that needed to be in place for the audience to fully receive and be in the zone with the music. And what he learned is that if there was any blocks to connection, any blocks to authenticity, the crowd would feel it and they'd get pissed. Like he said, it was like night or day, because they're like, I spent money to get here. I, blocked out time. I got the babysitter. We're here. We wait in line. And now you're not bringing me your full juice, your full energy, your full connection. He said they get pissed and they get pissed really fast. And so what I learned from him was that he was speaking in a certain way that wasn't declaring what it was for somebody. And I noticed that when I did that, or when others did that to me, I noticed defenses would come up. Just little defenses that would take more time to understand each other. And so what he told me was, he's like, if that's how you feel, man, that's just how you feel. Like, nobody can judge how you feel. They can judge what you do and the actions you take. They can't judge how you feel. You're a human being, you have feelings, and like, that's just how you feel. So I really noticed that with artists as well. And it is this type of like how I feel it. I feel it like in my chest, like the energy and the heart chakra, I feel is open when communication is flowing like this, because nobody's telling anybody what to do. They're just sharing their experience. And so what I've found in coaching, this has been very helpful, and conversations has been very helpful, because, I know for myself, I can have, be charging forward somewhere. So sometimes if there's old habits die hard, if there's a little defense that comes up, sometimes that old nature can, bang the head against the obstacle. So authentic communication, this is one of the most powerful techniques I've found in my own communication journey. And it's one of those things that's like hiding in plain sight as well. Okay. Other thing to take in for today is conversational flow plus keywords to save time. So I used to speak where I'd give details and details and more details and more details, and it would be building up until the moral of the story at the top. And then it'd be like, oh, okay, in summary, this is what I mean, or all this to say, this is what I mean. In a nutshell, this is what I mean. But it took so much time to get to that where a person wasn't even understanding what it was truly about. So in the spirit of saving time, started going top down. All right, what's the topic? What's the nugget? And then expand upon it into details and more details. Check in with people as we're adding in more details. Like how does that resonate with you? Does that make sense? Taking a pause instead of just like pouring out all the information, I found to be more effective. And each keyword being like a door that opens up to another room of information as well. So in the spirit of saving maximum time, I've even found that as well, as like just speaking in keywords, and people actually understand it way quicker. What do you do? Mastermind groups. I have a mastermind for mastermind leaders. An example that we've talked about before. And the third one here is timing and tone. So as we're in communication, sometimes if we're monotone, we're all speaking like this, or fragmented, jumping back and forth over here, back and forth. I found myself in the fragmented part times. And then tone, smooth and sharp. Is there, just like a song, is there ups and downs with the communication, or is it, sharp going different ways? So these are things to just bring to the subconscious clearing today. And I recommend just choosing one that feels the most relevant for you right now. Maybe the weak link you could choose, or just really just follow your own flow would be my recommendation. And I've got one last bonus one for simplicity. What I've found too in leadership and guiding is like, sometimes we may have so much knowledge on a subject that we could just do like a 7-hour treatise on that exact thing, right? But that's not what they need right now. So Tony Robbins, classic quote, says the power was something along the lines of just the power of our questions. The quality of our life is determined by the quality of our questions, I believe is his quote. So I started thinking about that because there was times where like a person needed a breakthrough, but I did not have the time to share everything. So I just started asking, what is the one thing they need to hear right now? What do they need to hear right now? What do they need to hear right now? And then just calming the body, relaxing, letting the subconscious take more over, go blank in the mind. And then sure enough, that one thing comes up. And it compresses all this time of explaining into just the question that they needed to hear. So that's a skill and bonus skill as well. So what's one thing that you'd like to take into the clearing today with our, each of our throat chakras so that we can have more clear communication on podcasts, more communication on webinars, more communication, clearer communication on calls, whether they're coaching calls, connection calls, sales calls.